Is Caleb Williams the best college quarterback you've seen in your lifetime? After one season at SC and one season at Oklahoma?
Before I answer, what's your take? Because you're closer to the sun, being more like closer to it. Just
No, I mean he's a monster. The number one thing would be confidence. Like he could spin the ball as good as anyone. That's obvious. Everyone can see the arm talent, the creativity, the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. Everyone's seen the Notre Dame play, and it's flashy. But it's the mental makeup to me that's really, really impressive. Like we had him on the show, and it was kind of this viral clip where the first play that he got put in. Remember when he took over for Spencer versus UT? It was a 4th and 1, and he had it was like a quarterback draw or like a quarterback sneak or something. And that was kind of like the defining moment. Like ever since then, he never looked back. And we asked him like, hey, like what's going on in your head? This is like the biggest moment of your life. This is like the biggest potentially moment in college football that year.
Yeah.
4th and 1 at OU playing Texas. And he was like, I knew I was going to score. And there's one thing to say it, but like he actually did think that, I think.
And I remember watching it and going and being like, come on. And then I watched him on TV and I'm like, no, he knew. I think he knew he was going to score.
You know, as a quarterback,
and it's a gear I never had, a gear most people never have, to where there's that unrelenting confidence of like, no, I'm the best guy out here and I'm going to whip it out and I'm going to do whatever I want and you're not going to stop me.
And to have that as a true freshman and like your first real reps, like that's what's crazy to me. And I'm with you. I echo the same thing you said whenever I go on like radio segments of his confidence, because it's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, or confidence or manufactured confidence in terms of, hey, I'm saying these things because I feel like I need to say these things, or I'm having this swagger because I feel like I need to have this swagger. It genuinely feels like that's who he is. In a lot of like the fashion stuff and just his overall mentality. Like he's so confident and comfortable in his skin. That's why if I was an NFL GM, would be buying his stock as much as any top quarterback we've had in recent memory. But he's a stud. I mean, the on the field stuff speaks for itself, but the off the stuff would be why if I was a GM, I'm like, yo, we got to get this guy.
And he's a different cat, and I watch it from afar, and every time I go, I don't know, he's got a little, obviously he's different, but he's got some Kyler vibes to me, just personality-wise. I've never met him before. Mo, but that's what I was going to get to. Mo always defends him. Mo, they're going to pull you up for his draft thing. They're going to go, this guy's the greatest kid, and like I hope he is. I'm sure he is, in fact, based on what you've said in your glowing recommendation. But like, fuck whatever team on your fingernails. Come on, dog.
That is the one thing that is a head scratcher for me. Like,
it's a head scratcher.
What was the upside for that?
I don't know.
Just to be like edgy and like he definitely leans into the fashion stuff, which like that was like peak like fingernail painting. I feel like that's when it became like fashion.
One thing to paint your fingernails. Another thing, as a guy who everybody's watching,
Here's how I look at it. It's kind of like the eccentric artist deal. Like you can't have one and not the other piece. Like Kanye West, right? Super controversial, says crazy things, unbelievable artist, makes crazy popular songs, right? It all goes together, and like you see a lot of artists are the same way. We talk about the confidence, like it's gonna spill over into other areas that people aren't gonna agree with, and you can't like have one part and not have the other. And like, but he just doesn't care. That's the thing. Like literally could not care any less.
Book it. Caleb Williams, Kanye West of quarterbacking, NFL GMs. You heard it here first.
But it's the same thing. If you genuinely don't care, you do whatever you want, right?
And I guess to some degree, you gotta.
And that's what makes you so great at football, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the concern there is that, like, if you're a GM, like, I'm just having deja vu of like Baker Mayfield and a little bit of like
a Johnny kind of.
Like Johnny's obviously an extreme, but even like Cam Newton to a degree of like
MVP though.
When you MVP, but a steep decline. I know injuries came into it as well. I don't read much into the fingernail painting. To me, it's just like, what's the upside? Like, why not just do maroon and like yellow or whatever and have it be a trendy thing? Like, why call out a team that's had USC's number the past couple years?
But they back it up, though. I will say, if you lose that game, then that's a bad deal. That's like talking a bunch of crazy shit like before a fight and then getting knocked out. You got to win.
Yeah, and I guess in my mind, I'm thinking they lost the title game, but I know what you're saying. That's obviously
the game he painted it, they won.
Of course, yeah. I guess you got to back it up.
Yeah, you got to win. You have to,
and you got to sleep in the bed that you make. So, you can't. You gotta wear that on the chin in the post game interview if you did lose.
And speaking of the post game interview, obviously I'm looking too much into it. After UCLA in particular, usually as a quarterback, you're taught to deflect. You're taught, the offensive line, the defense, my teammates, my coaches. I didn't hear a lot. It was like, man, they were talking shit, and then I did this, and I'm like, you know it. You're a good guy. I'm sure teammates loved being around you. I'm sure you were always a leader, whether or not you were starting. Guys look to you as like, he's going to be, consistent. He's going to be good to everybody, from the head coach to the guys on the training staff to people who are watching the gear. Like, I think that matters a little bit from a PR perspective. That's our glimpse as a fan into who this person is. And that competitiveness there's a side to it that's positive, but there's also, let's not be me guys out here.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm wrong.
If I'm a GM interviewing him, I'm definitely interviewing him, or I'm definitely asking him about that whole deal just to see how he reacts. Yeah. But to me, it's not that big of a deal.
Of course not. But
yeah, it's not. I think it was him just, I don't know, riding that whole wave or whatever. And I'd be curious if he'd do it again. Like, and my gut says no, just because I don't think it was worth the backlash that he got, because there's no upside. But I guess we'll see what happens.
I'm not really.
It was nothing really bad, but it was just, I didn't. Again, if it's like almost inside quarterback, where you go, that's not what we're supposed to say, and tempers are high, and they just won one of the biggest games that the school has won in at least half a decade. But again, it's just, I look at a guy like Jalen Hurts. Would he have said that?
Different.
He's a different guy, different personality. But there's a reason that he's had the success and the ascent that he has had, because of his ability, his emotional control, and his ability to keep that equilibrium.
Are things changing though? Because is that old school in terms of guys having more personality and individuality within sports? Like a guy like, I know football and basketball are different, but like a guy like Draymond, having his show, being so outspoken, dudes being their own brands now is a thing. Like, I mean, like 15 years ago, the Peyton Manning, Drew Brees approach, like, is that kind of over?
I think so. Funny enough, that clip right there on the bottom left is literally what talking about that same thing. Yeah. I went to a conference where Jaylen Brown speaking, who's the commissioner of the NBA PA or whatever, and he was talking about how, like, when he got into the league, there was a culture in the NBA of, if you had any sort of side hustle, a la a podcast, it was kind of like, oh, are you all in on basketball? Like, oh, that's cute, like that connotation. And Mo, I'm sure you felt that a little bit building this platform here. But then now, and his argument was that basketball's ahead of other sports in that regard of, if you are an NBA player and you do have a clothing line, a podcast, investments, you're doing this, that it doesn't have the negative connotation it had a decade ago, because that individuality and like brand equity with players is more celebrated now than it was a decade ago, and basketball's ahead of football. So I do think that's changing. And I do think Caleb like taps into that of, he's the face of not only the program, but like college football. And with that comes a lot of leverage that he's done a really good job utilizing for his own benefit, as he should in this new NIL space.
Yeah. Drake concert in the middle of camp is kind of wild, though. Did you see that one?
No. When?
He pulled up to the concert and he was like, am I too far away? He wasn't on the stage itself, but like, I don't know. I just think back to like my training camps, and it's like the last thing.
Caleb went to the Drake concert? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, dang.
Yeah, it was cool.
When was that?
When was he performing? Like last week or something?
Because I know, for whatever it's worth.
Were you out there?
Wasn't out there, but like USC is playing week 0, so they're like camp.
Yeah, it's like mock game week or something.
Yeah, it's like different timeline than the rest of the world. But yeah, I didn't. Shoot, he should have went to the Eras tour. A little T Swift. It was in SoFi.
That would have gone crazy on social media.